States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will move into our consensus agenda.
Okay, I move that we approve the claims for the last month. That total is $958,129.26. That's made up of vouchers of $511,509.92 and payroll of $446,619.34. Along with that, I move that we approve the minutes from our last meeting. Actually, last two meetings, probably.
Second.
It's been moved by Steve, second by Lex. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. On to patrons' comments. Any patrons' comments this evening? If not, we will move on to our presentations.
All right, we have two presentations tonight. The first is going to be Mrs. Jen Felke, who has done nothing but just a stellar job leading our career and technical education in both Marshall and Stark County. And a couple of students, Elijah Cox and Lexi Sumter, are going to share a little bit about their experience in CTE. And then we're going to have Greg Fitzloff talk to us a little bit about the Kosciuszko County Redevelopment Commission in Etna Green, the residential TIF that is a possibility in the future, and just tell us a little bit more about that as we plan to possibly recommend a resolution for that moving forward. So I'm going to go ahead and ask Ms. Jen to talk to us a little bit about CTE.
Sure. Thanks for having me. Your counselors at the high school, Sarah and Ashley, and then also Nate, they are a phenomenal team to work with. I started my position at the end of March last year, and so I hit the ground running. I'm working with 10 schools, and I've really enjoyed my time here at Triton and learning about your school community and getting to know the students and the staff. And I'm excited because I wasn't sure who was presenting tonight, but they told me they had a student who just loved criminal justice, and that is at Plymouth. And so I've been chatting here with Lexi, and we've been chatting about her experience. And then Elijah, what program are you in?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Took criminal justice last year. Now I'm in an internship at the Marshall County Courthouse.
Awesome. So you're going to talk a little bit about maybe how that impacted your internship. And so we have some very exciting programs that are coming to the cooperative next year, including veterinary science, fire and rescue, which we run outside of inside the Plymouth Fire Station. And then we're also going to have education careers. We all know we need teachers, and we're trying to grow our own. And so education careers is going to be a new program. And so I'm excited to be bringing that to all the students. And I think I really want to turn it over to the students because I really enjoy hearing from them. So, Lexi, you want to go first?
All right.
Hi, my name's Lexi. I do the criminal justice class at Plymouth, and a couple of my favorite things that we have done is the murder mysteries and how we get to do hands-on activities. And going into the criminal justice, I never thought I really would be doing it because my sister, she did the hair, she did cosmetology, and that's what I wanted to do. And I had to take a test to get in, but I didn't get in, but that was okay because the counselors told me that there was a cooking CTE I could do, and then there was a criminal justice CTE I could do. And being at home with all the COVID, I watched TV a lot. And that's what I watched, which was Criminal Minds and everything, murder mysteries. And when she said something about that, I knew that's what I was wanting to do. And so about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had scheduling for my senior year. And I came in, and she was like, and Ms. Arvison said, well, do you want to continue doing your CTE? And I said, I would love to be doing it again because it's my favorite class. It is my favorite class that I've ever taken, being in high school. And we're planning a New Year's one coming up, and it has been really hands-on. And I think that anyone who wants to be a police officer, forensics, I think they should definitely take this because not only, yes, there is tests in there, but it shows you what you have to do to be a part of it. And the teacher also cares for you. The students, they come from different schools. They're nice, and being my first year in there, not knowing anybody, it was weird, but then I slowly got to get to know everybody, and it helped me a lot.
Guess I'll just come over here real fast. My name is David Cox, or Elijah Cox, depending on how you know me. But yes, I took a internship class, criminal justice, at Plymouth High School last year. So I would take a few classes, 4 classes actually, in the morning. Then during lunch, I would drive over, eat a quick snack, probably pack a lunch, eat it at Plymouth High School, and have a 2.5 hour class over there. This was extremely beneficial for my internship, which I am currently interning in the morning under Judge Sarber at Superior Court 3. So my criminal justice class kind of, well, number one, it was not my original plan. I was originally going to go into welding, and that was because I love hands-on stuff. But when the door kind of, for that closed, I took an alternate route as in criminal justice, and it really sparked interest, this class did. And it really laid the groundwork for just understanding basically an overall picture of the criminal justice system, whether that's in the field, police officers, forensics, CSI, that type of sort of thing, or it's, you know, in the courthouse, behind the scenes. You know, a lot of people don't really know and see how that goes on, and so it was extremely beneficial to see the vocabulary and the inner workings of the system. And so, you know, as I went through this class and through all these group discussions, it really helped me to gather evidence and to pull from this mixing pot of students from John Glenn, Plymouth, Triton, Knox, different, you know, areas, and, you know, gather my resources and form my own opinions with the help of others. So through group projects and individual projects as well, debates helped me to drive home a few points and beliefs, and then also to see my professor at the time, Miss E, and see her impact and her beliefs. And now when I go to my internship, I have a basic understanding of the criminal justice system. I'm able to dive deeper in conversation with the judge or the bailiff or the court reporter and any type of secretary there, whether it's in Superior Court 3, 2, 1, or the Circuit Court. So I'm able to be more outspoken and more complex in the way I deal with issues or, you know, questions. And so I'm able to have a greater understanding, and it makes me able to be a more well-rounded student as well as intern. So that is basically my understanding of my CTE.
Awesome. Great job. Great job. Can you extend the conversation here a little bit? They talked about year 1, year 2, and just really our objective through CTE of why we want them to go to year 2 and that concentrator piece?
Yeah. So really what we want to do with career technical education is start exposing students at a younger age, ideally middle school age, even starting as low as 5th. So that's one of the areas that I want to work on with the counselors and the school communities, is to start that exposure, that awareness, so that when they get into high school, what they can do is they can kind of test drive. They can see what they like, take a principal's course or an introductory course, so they can try something, see if they like it their freshman year. If it's maybe not for them, they can try something their sophomore year. So by the time they are juniors, they can select a program, which is typically takes a half a day, that they have sincere interest in. It is one that can provide the opportunity to earn dual credit, because you have that opportunity now, or a certification. There is not a certification in criminal justice, but a lot of our programs have certifications that would allow them to graduate high school and go right into the field with a good paying job. But what we are really trying to do is create that mindset that CTE programs in high school are 2-year programs. So you take the first year you can become a concentrator then, but then if you take the second year, you have a lot more exposure to work-based learning. That can be embedded within the course, or like what Elijah's doing right now, it is on-site. So that when they graduate, they're going to hopefully have college credits, possible certifications, and then they have that work-based learning component where they've also been exposed to employability skills. And those are things that are going to allow students to go on to college if they want, but they're going to also be able to go right into the workforce with some great foundational skills and knowledge, more so than if they didn't have that experience.
Any questions for either our students or Mrs. Felke? You guys did an awesome job. Thank you for sharing, and just thank you for your daily effort in continuing to learn. I have to think that being with Judge Sarber is quite the experience, because he's a new judge, right? So he's learning along with you learning that whole role versus the prosecutor role, right? So I know he's going through some changes. I think it's important to understand, trying to change the mindset of if you go into CTE, then you are going straight into the workforce and you are not college bound. But continuing to have the conversation with our kids that the internships really just give them, in some cases, a leg up when they get into college, or to get into college into their chosen profession.
Yeah. CTE is very, very rigorous. So I think there was that myth that it's for the non-college bound student, and that is simply not true. Some of our programs, including criminal justice, they aren't easy, right? But you're interested in them, and it allows you to work hard. The engagement with the project-based learning is phenomenal. And the other thing is, with the dual credits, they can go right to the workforce, or they can go to college, and what's going to happen is they can maybe graduate college early. I know Mrs. Sheets's daughter was in the Health Careers program, and she's now done with PA school, physician, and had she not earned all those credits, she couldn't have gone into PA school earlier. So that's just another example of the program. And so if you're a parent who's paying for college, or you're about to pay for college, you will appreciate that. So again, CTE really is for any student, no matter the path they want to choose.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So just to extend that, our desire was to continue to increase. In fact, through our strategic planning process, we talked about the want to continue to expose our students through the CTE and internships. And just as part of my core values today, I'm just going to share it now because it's applicable. Currently, we have 30 students in a CTE program and 29 in an internship. Compared to last year, we had 19 CTE students and 10 interns. So just seeing the increase of both our counselors, getting to know our students, what is their interest, what is their passion, placing them in the proper areas, obviously expanding programs to make sure that we don't have kids sitting on the sidelines waiting to get in, has just been a blessing. So we'll continue to expand that. So do we have any other questions for them before we move on? All right, you guys are dismissed. I know you have a lot of things you want to do tonight, right? So, all right. Ms. Felke, thank you so much for, absolutely, thank you for sharing. I'm going to go ahead and introduce Greg Fitzloff. We've just spoken on the phone, all right, so we just officially maybe met each other, well, I guess we met each other a few months back, but he's going to talk to us a little bit about, he's from the Kosciuszko County Redevelopment Commission, talking to us a little bit about the residential TIF in Etna Green that he has been working on for quite some time.
Thank you very much. That's a tough act to follow. You guys are really impressive. That kind of makes you wonder where they're going to end up and how well they're going to do. So that's impressive. Tonight, really, I'm here to talk to you a little bit about housing, housing specifically in Kosciuszko County, and more specifically Etna Green. A little background. 2018, 2019, we started to hear a lot of comments from primarily area employers about the need for additional workforce housing. As they were adding people, they were having not only trouble finding employees, but once they found employees, those employees were having a lot of problems finding places to live. Traditionally, what we see in the market is a lot of people driving into those places of employment, those major places of employment. And what the employers obviously are telling us is, gee, if they're living 20, 25 miles away, 30, 40 miles away, driving in every day, they're probably driving by 3, 4, 6 job wanted, jobs for hire signs, and they're saying we lose those people as they drive by. They say, gee, if I can get a job 5 miles, 10 miles, 15 miles closer to where I live, all of a sudden we're back in that situation. At that point in time, the KEDCO, the Economic Development Corporation, the Community Foundation, City of Warsaw, county government really got together and decided to commission a study to look in terms of trying to identify what the needs really were and what the potential really was. One of the things that came out of that in the end was the need at that time for roughly 2,000 additional housing units in the county, certainly by the year 2025. Since that time, we've had any number of major employers grow significantly, added new employers, so we expect that number, if we redid it today, is going to be significantly higher. Obviously, that was a lot more housing units that were being produced in the market at that time. KEDCO began a housing initiative really in 2019 to try and figure out ways to increase that capacity, not just in Warsaw, but throughout the county. Every community in the county that we have gone into has identified the need for additional housing, not only to grow the community, to grow the schools, to grow the employment base, and obviously to grow the tax base. What our goal has been is really to go into each of those communities, identify with the community where is the need, is there a need, is there support for that housing, and begin to move forward with that effort. Right now, we've actually got 14 different projects going at some stage throughout the county. We're actually tracking a total of, I think last count was 32 different projects that we're aware that people are thinking of moving toward trying to identify. Part of our initiative is to go out to the communities and sit down with them, try and identify not only the need, but in every community I've been in, two things come up. Number one, yes, we need housing. Number two, there's no place to put it. We're landlocked. So it becomes a process of identifying the need, identifying the property, seeing what we can put together. In this specific case in Etna Green, we've been talking with Etna Green for a little over 2 years now. First response was, you bet, we'd love housing. We need more housing. This community is dying. Second comment is, but there's no land. Nobody else is going to sell us land. We were fortunate in that case where we were able to find a property owner that was willing to consider the option, looked at the property, did our initial due diligence on the property, and began this process of actually sitting down and creating a housing development in the community. Part of the problem in all of these communities with housing is really the cost of putting it together and getting it done. As we tell people, development of any kind at this point in time is, quite frankly, not for the weak of heart. It's expensive, it's time-consuming, and the payoff comes somewhere way down the road. One of the reasons a lot of the housing hasn't been developed in these small communities is because there's no identified precedent or history of that. If you look at all the small communities in the area, there really isn't any of them that have had any new housing developments to speak of over the last, some cases, 10, 15, 20 years. When we talk to developers going into that community, why are they going to do it there without some sense of, is it going to be successful? Major game changer again in 2019, the state legislature went back into state statutes and allowed for the creation of residential tax increment financing districts, TIFs. TIFs had been around in the state of Indiana for 30 plus years, really 1989. Been used for a lot of commercial and industrial projects. I think probably 2/3 of the industrial parks in the state over that time have been created by using residential TIFs. A lot of the major commercial developments in other communities have been developed with using commercial TIFs. And we spent a lot of time kind of explaining a little bit more about TIFs, but I think I'd be glad to answer any questions about that. By allowing for residential TIFs, we now have a tool to be able to incentivize developers to go into some of those small communities, reduce the upfront cost, reduce some of the risk that they have with the project, and take on a project that they may not have otherwise been willing to do. Obviously, with their financing, with their ability to move ahead with those projects, and we have no real doubt that there's a market there. It's simply, can we figure out a way to make the market work? Again, specifically in terms of the residential TIFs, there are it's slightly different process than with the what I call the traditional or commercial TIFs. One of the steps of the process is a resolution of support from the local school corporation. That's specifically why we're here tonight. Had a chance to begin the process in Etna Green. We've identified the property. We're in the process of starting to find a developer. We've already had a couple that have approached us about that particular project as we've worked on other projects throughout the county. But we need to begin the process with the County Redevelopment Commission to find out if, in fact, we can create a residential TIF for that Etna Green property and move ahead so we know that we have the ability for the Redevelopment Commission to offer those incentives for a potential development in the community. I mean, just stop there, and every time I talk to, whether it's a school board or other groups, it's always a question of too much information or not enough information, or so just kind of try and get somewhere in the middle, give you some information, and hopefully any questions that you might have that we can answer.
Are we the only organization that needs to give consent, or does the town need to give consent also?
The town is the final authority. They will give their final consent in the end. In this case, since the town of Etna Green does not have a redevelopment commission, the County Redevelopment Commission is acting as their agent. The County Redevelopment Commission starts the process. They determine eligibility. In this case, Etna Green is eligible. They will pass a declaratory resolution, which they have done, and in order then they begin the process of notifying the overlapping taxing bodies, and the only one that's specifically in terms of a taxing body that has to give approval at this point in time is the school board. The town council will be the final determining body. At the very end, they will pass a final confirmatory resolution to actually set up the TIF. At this point, the steps, there is a approval needed from the Area Plan Commission that the property is eligible and appropriate for housing, things of that sort. There is a fiscal impact study that will be done during the process. Again, it's a step-by-step process. It'll take somewhere in the area of probably Oh, depending on how meetings fall, one step at a time, probably about 120 days.
I think there's a couple things that are important to understand. What are the pros, what are the cons, right, for us? A TIF is simply a tax increment finance, which simply means when we create the resolution, or if they would process through this TIF, essentially the tax dollars would be taken away from the school. Okay, so that's, I would consider that a con, right? But the pro of that is the continued growth of our school corporation and quality families and the quality kids that are gonna be in those houses in our community to continue to help our school corporation and the town of Etna Green continue to grow and thrive as a place where there's quality housing, right? I think there's a couple things that we've said over the years through the stellar designation, through a lot of the Marshall County or Kosciuszko County initiatives, is the need for broadband internet, right? The need for quality housing, not just rental housing in this community. And this is one step closer to that in Etna Green. I'm excited to say that there are a couple conversations coming up with Greg Hildebrand, who is actually the acting intern executive director at Marshall County Community Foundation, to discuss the possibility of some other projects that have a little bit of foundation, and we'll be talking about that a little bit on Friday. So really, we have to weigh the tax impact of that. Eventually, we could go back to, or at least we can on commercial. I guess I would ask that question on residential. Eventually, we could go back to the towns and ask for some of that TIF money, ask for that back. Now, I don't know how often that necessarily happens, but I know around Indianapolis, it's huge, around the airport and that type of thing. It has created a lot of tax impact. But in the end, we really feel like that's best for our community, especially at the Green, the school, providing all of those kids come to Triton. That was funny. And the second piece of that is we think we can provide the education that those people want. And I will tell you, we have received a lot of people from surrounding areas that just wish they had housing in our area. And this is going to be one opportunity of possibly 3 opportunities that we're talking about and or have been talked about for the last 10 years of possibly impacting our community in a positive way. So thank you for the input. Be more than happy to take any more questions. But
That was a great explanation of from the perspective of the school board, the pros and cons. How, for the town of Etna Green, what would be the pros and cons? What reason would they have for maybe not wanting to pass that resolution?
The issue becomes for them, again, the taxes collected in a TIF district. You start out with a base value. You're currently on this 18-acre piece of property. The town, school, any of the taxing districts, the county, are getting their particular piece of that. You will always get that. You do not lose that in a TIF. The only change is on what happens to the increase in value. That's where the increment comes in. The incremental increase in assessed value in that property goes into the TIF district, used for the benefit of the TIF district, either in a direct or an indirect fashion. Now, normally in these residential TIFs, it's almost always used as part of the upfront cost savings for the development of the property, roads, sewer, infrastructure, et cetera. And as Jeremy was relating to, what happens is that once that is done, and on an annual basis, as with traditional TIFs, that district has to report back to all of the other overlapping taxing bodies in terms of what they're doing with the funds in that district. So if there is a point in time where there is no longer the need for those funds within that district or for the benefit of that district, they can simply either dissolve the TIF or simply send the money back to the particular districts. Now, I'm not going to suggest that that happens very often. It certainly does happen. And what does happen more often is what you were really relating to, within the original traditional TIF statute, there is a clause in there that really refers to up to 15% of the annual TIF revenue may be used for educational purposes. So there have been a number of school districts around the state that have gone back to those TIF districts and asked for that. Some have received it. Some other districts are using it for different purposes. Happen to work with one district in the southern part of the state, Jeffersonville, where they didn't give it back to the school. They simply had accumulated enough in there that every graduate of Jefferson High School now gets a scholarship. That's the way they kind of kept control of it, but used it for educational purposes. Another community, they used it to work with the school to do some maintenance, et cetera, on some school property. In this case, for example, we may take that TIF and simply because it's immediately adjacent to the community park in Etna Green, I would anticipate at some point in time they would probably want to use it for some park maintenance, et cetera. In any case, at some point in time, maximum of 25 years after the TIF is encumbered, that TIF is dissolved. So it's not a forever. Now, I don't know, when I was younger, 25 years seemed like a long time. It's not quite as long anymore for some reason. So, and in a lot of cases, if you go back to 1989 when they started creating these traditional TIFs around the state, it's amazing now how many of them are being dissolved and are over with, and obviously then the tax revenue. So at some point in time, there may, you may be sitting here and looking at saying, gee, it took a long time, but some of that money did come back. But obviously from the town's perspective, right now, it's a population growth. They capture obviously some edit taxes. The area town employers, major employer in Etna Green, certainly has the capability now of growing and expanding. I probably use the example of Etna Green. I put 35 to 40 new homes in Etna Green. That's 35 to 40 new families in a community the size of Etna Green. That's going to significantly change the dynamics of that community in terms of the population base, the number of people, potential obviously for new commercial growth, things of that sort. And that's probably really what Etna Green is after, that ability to grow and maintain itself.
Might have to put in a stoplight or a roundabout.
The tax rate that the people pay inside the TIF district, is it the same tax rate as that people pay outside the? I mean, it's the combination of the county and the school and the town and
Yes,
library and everything, so they pay the full tax rate. It just all goes to the TIF district.
that's correct.
And is a referendum, if we would in the future pass a referendum, would that be subject to the TIF district, or is that outside the?
That's outside the TIF district.
So that money would still go to?
Yeah, anything, in terms of anything that's on the tax base and that increment, that would continue, but it wouldn't change,
Wouldn't increase with the assessed value increase.
Correct.
18 acres is what's being discussed right now.
That's correct.
Greg, some of that is wasteland and that type of thing, but you're thinking around approximately 35 homes is possibly the dream.
Yeah, that will be determined by the actual developer. We always have an engineer do an initial layout for us to see what we're dealing with in terms of the suitability and how it might logically lay out, but that's probably a high end would be 40 homes, probably a low end would be somewhere in the low 30s.
Thank you very much, Greg, for your explanation. Do we have any other questions for him?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome to stick around. We will get to the passing of that resolution at the end of the meeting, so you're welcome to stick around, or you're welcome to leave, totally up to you. So.
We move on to personnel.
All right, I recommend the approval. I'm going to go ahead and lump these three together because they're all substitute teacher recommendations. So Shelby Kleinholtz, Ricky Yarbrough, who is Rick Yarbrough's father, and Mason McIntyre, and Michaela Odell as a substitute teacher. Yes.
Substitute teachers.
Second.
Been moved by Ken, seconded by Steve. Any other discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 5-0.
Next, I recommend the approval of Jayla Meister as an 8th grade girls basketball volunteer coach.
Second.
Been moved by Kevin, seconded by Wes. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 5-0.
I recommend the approval of Taryn Yates, Elise Germany, Shayna Anderson, and Jalen Belis as volunteer practice players for the varsity girls basketball team.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Steve, seconded by Kevin. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 5-0.
I recommend the approval of Gail Lemler as the part-time high school custodian.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Ken, seconded by Wes. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 5-0.
With the most recent transition of Coach Eunice to the athletic director position, he is formally put in his letter of resignation as the varsity head football coach. And before we take action on that, I just want to thank him for his years of service. And he's doing a heck of a job as the athletic director right now with communication and just, learning a lot, drinking through a fire hose on some days, but doing a great job of bringing a little bit of stability to that position. So,
I move that we accept his resignation.
Second that.
Been moved by Kevin, seconded by Wes. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0.
we got to hear a little bit of Rodney's passion for the program, for our school, and for the kids on, what was that, last Monday night? And so within that resignation, or just his outline of the timeline that he gave to us approximately 5 years ago, Zach Whitaker was a large part of that piece. And Zach has not disappointed. And so with a hearty, I guess just a thanks to him for his efforts, but full support of Zach Whitaker as our new varsity football coach.
I move we approve Zach as our new varsity football coach.
Second.
Moved by Steve, seconded by Ken. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 5-0.
Zach, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I'm just extremely blessed and thankful for this opportunity. I mean, I've been so lucky to have the support of the administration, with Jeremy and Nate, but especially to Rod and Eunice. I mean, took me in 4 years ago and has been such a great mentor, not only as a coach, but as a person and a leader. And I just promise I'll do my best to carry on the foundation he's built.
Excited to have you, Zach.
The football program is indeed in a good place.
It is.
It is. Welcome. Excited. Did we already vote on that? Okay, all right. Welcome, maybe not. No, I'll take my welcome back until it's voted on. All right, I recommend the approval of Joe White as junior high boys basketball assistant coach. If you recall, we actually recommended him as a volunteer coach last board meeting, I believe, or the meeting before that. Since then, the 7th grade crew is up to about 17 kids. 16, yeah, maybe 16. So we just felt like instead of that being a volunteer, we wanted a little bit more security of him feeling as if it was worth showing up more than just a volunteer and making sure that we had enough supervision. So we just expanded that.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Kevin, seconded by Steve. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 5-0.
As part of our collective bargaining agreement that we'll be passing here momentarily, there were athletic supervisors that we put into that agreement just to make sure that we're, first of all, providing enough supervision at games, both home and away, but also making sure that we're not burning our athletic director out when it comes to being at everything all the time and not really having support. So with the cooperation of Shauna and the TTA, we came up with a job description of what that's going to look like, what the expectations are, so that's not just willy-nilly. But the next few items here, I'm going to put all of these together, but are just simply supervisors that are going to be at these games. They're going to be a captive audience at the game to help Rodney if and when he has to be multiple places at once, ready to take on tough conversations with hopefully we don't have to mess with that, but with parents. Take care of referees, also reporting out to Orion when it comes to the results of games to make sure that our Facebook posts and social media posts are up to date. So I recommend the approval of Jason Groves as the high school girls basketball supervisor, Megan Hammond as the junior high girls basketball supervisor, Kim Stetzel is the high school wrestling supervisor. Zach Whitaker, one of those was the weight room supervisor. If you remember, as part of our K-21 Foundation, we were trying to find a way to open that up to the community as well. So that is something that has been added. And then Kennedy Kroll as the junior high and high school volleyball supervisor. We will do that for each season, but these are the ones that obviously are taking place right now.
I move we approve those.
Second.
Been moved by Steve, seconded by Ken. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 5-0.
Retroactive or?
Right. So just very similar to teacher pay, will be retroactive, those type of things, that will be as well. Yes, good question.
Moving on to business.
All right, I'd like to recommend the approval. TTA has ratified this contract. We had our public meeting last Monday night, and tonight allows us to recommend the collective bargaining agreement to reward our teachers for their awesome service.
We approve the collective bargaining agreement. Second.
Been moved by Ken, seconded by Wes. Any discussion? All in favor?
Just a reminder, Ashley, I need to recuse myself from one of those.
So motion passes 401. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to say, Sean?
First of all, I'd just like to thank Jeremy and Tom and really both sides for this year for the contract. Both sides have put in a lot of time and a lot of hard work into it. And I think we all remember not too long ago, we were kind of in a position that we kind of like to forget where we were under salary freeze for 3 or so years. But it took a lot of hard work, sticking together. We were able to pull through that, thankfully. And thankfully, we're in such a through good management and much better position now. So on behalf of all the teachers, I would just like to personally say thank you for this year's contract and mostly for getting us put back onto the traditional salary schedule. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Shauna. As is typical, we want to make sure we take care of the teachers first. So the collective bargaining agreement obviously has been approved. So with that, I would also recommend the director's salary increase, similar to our teachers' increase, and our administrative contracts and those extensions.
Second.
Moved by Kevin, seconded by Steve. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 5-0.
I'll let you take the next one.
Superintendent?
Yeah, I'm not going to recommend my own contract.
I move we approve the superintendent's contract as presented last week.
Second, gonna move, we table it?
I heard a second, but I didn't know who from Ken. Been moved by Steve, seconded by Ken. Any discussion? All in favor?
Doing a good job.
Yes, motion passes
Thank you.
5-0.
I also thank you, along with our directors and our administrative staff. We are truly blessed. The last 2 years have been nothing short of an extreme trial, and I will still say that we're in some ways still repairing from that, maybe. And so I feel like this is a great way to say just thank you But we are blessed with great teachers, great administrative staff, great directors, and just couldn't be more blessed with the people that we have surrounding our kids. So it's not an easy task ever, but it does make it a little bit easier when you know people care and they have the correct agenda every day that they show up. So I'm just very, very thankful for everybody in our corporation that continues to invest in our kids. So. All right. I recommend the approval, as we've heard tonight from Greg Fitzloff, that we just take the step. We aren't committing to anything necessarily, other than we are giving our approval to continue forward with the conversation for the Kosciuszko County Redevelopment Commission of Etna Green and the residential TIF resolution that is in the packet for us to sign.
Approve that.
Second.
Been moved by Steve, seconded by Kevin. I will recuse myself from this vote. All in favor? Motion passes 4-0-1.
All right, and I recommend the approval to provide bus transportation as we have in the past, the last couple of years, for the Napanee Missionary Church camps. 4th and 5th grade will go to camp on 6/20 to 7/2, junior high 7/11 to 7/14, and high school 7/15 to 7/19. Laura has secured, well, she hasn't this year, but in the past that has been bus drivers looking forward to doing that, has secured bus drivers to be paid for that. Obviously, they pay them, they pay for our mileage, so works out for both parties.
Moved by Kevin, seconded by Ken. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Superintendent's report.
All right, core values. I've already shared with the first piece, shared leadership, just the CTE increase in CTE enrollment and what that has done for our kids. Just super impressed with Lexi and Elijah, as I know him. I don't know if that means I know him well or if I should call him David, but so some people know me as, right? But just did an awesome job of talking about just one of those classes, and obviously there's many of those. So like I said, we have 30 people that are in those CTE classes right now, 30 students, and 29 that are in internships. Mr. Boyer, I think your granddaughter is in an internship at Lutheran Health Network or Kosciuszko County Hospital, and if you talk to Anna, she has seen more things in her internship than she ever thought she would get the opportunity to see, whether that's surgeries or just all sorts of things, just all sorts of different views of the hospital. So it's just been an incredible adventure. Absolutely. Social responsibility, tonight's resolution and future growth conversations are a great example of how working together with our towns, economic development corporations, and local business and landowners can set the stage for future growth opportunities and strengthen our school and our appeal in the community. High expectations. I sent a leadership report to you on November 2nd. Just an example that it takes all of us to run our areas of influence as best we possibly can. And I just thank those individuals that are in that leadership conversation to continue to just drive those positive impacts. Alignment, I want to thank you to our Teachers Association, our board trustees for the corporation for the tentative agreement, and then obviously tonight's contract. Just super excited to get that taken care of and move on and get them retro paid and just say thank you in that way. Evidence-based decision-making, our bond 2023 is underway, working towards getting a lot of quotes. I'm excited to just do a lot of upgrades to our auditorium. So we've talked a lot about that, but we continue to get those quotes in, and I'll share those obviously as they continue to come in. And then lastly, I just want to simply thank our Board of Trustees for your trust and encouragement. We have a tremendous team of leaders who work hard every day to give our corporation the best, and I'm so thankful for their support and dedicated service. So thank you all. I think it's important to note, congratulations on being reelected to the board. So that was Mr. Stichter, Ms. Barnhart, and Mr. Miller. So congratulations to you, and I think there's a lot to be said with continuity on a board, and just your guys' backgrounds and viewpoints definitely make this a quality, high-performing board, so thank you.
That is all I have.
On to building reports.
Patrons comments.
Oh, patrons comments. Any patrons comments in the room this evening? No? On to building report. Who wants to go first?
She's closer to the microphone.
All right, well, to say things are busy is an understatement. I feel like everybody's working really hard in the corporation, and certainly I know in our building. Looking back after fall break, I guess we had a successful Red Ribbon Week, and just reminder to our students what it means to, you know, stay healthy, make good decisions, and be drug-free. We had special days each week, and also we had a theme contest for some students to come up with like next year's theme. And Stacy, we picked those from a poster contest, and so anyway, those winners were read, and that would be submitted to another contest for next year's Red Ribbon Week. We also saw third grade program, who this was our first live program for elementary music since December of 2019. So it was really nice to be back in the auditorium and doing that, and third graders did a great job with the patriotic celebration. And then we also had another program that week honoring veterans just last Friday. I'd like to thank everybody. Officer Carl Amsden was our special speaker. I felt like it was short and sweet. We had some students who, you know, really performed, third grade performed some of their numbers, and we had some other students involved in other activities in the presentation, and I felt like it was a good way to honor our veterans again. We do have programs upcoming in first grade will be next Monday. I'm sorry. Yes, first grade is next Monday, and then second grade Monday night, and then second grade will have a Christmas program on December 19th. So appreciate Ms. Alder for putting those together, and all the parents for coming out to see those. Also, we have more things coming up this Friday. Stacy Sheets has been doing the first half, I guess, of our child protection program, talking about how kids can stay safe. And then also this Friday, we'll be focusing a little bit more on the body safety part of it. And she, in conjunction with representatives from SCAN, will be coming to do that and a presentation. That is a required program, but also when you start to look at the situations that our kids are in, you realize it's also a necessary part of learning, unfortunately, for many of those kids, that they need to know those things. Also in December, grade 5, we'll have our Bodies in Progress program coming up as well. So lots of learning beyond the 3 R's as well for our kids. This week on our Thursday late start, we will be focusing on the new science standards that are coming out and how that affects us and our curriculum and what we already do. So that will be on board there, with an addition to strengthening our special education services and our communication, and also our preschool will be working on some specific trainings as well. So we have some things going on there. And then after Thanksgiving break, we will be working on our middle of year benchmarking for our students, and to see the kind of progress and the growth that they will have made. Progress reports do go home this week as well on Thursday. And, I guess I'd like to thank all of our teachers who've been taking a little bit of time out of the classroom by grade level to work on mapping our math curriculum, since we have new programs and everything, and looking at that closely. So that's always a big transition when we switch to a new program. The standards are the same, but the way it's delivered, the sequencing is a little different. We want to make sure that we're doing it well. So teachers have been working on that a little by little. So I appreciate their work. I think that's it.
Okay, an update for the junior senior high school, just some events that have already passed and maybe some that are coming up. So October 25th, we had a junior high dance. Nancy Nordman and Paul Williams put that on for our junior high, and I think the kids had a really good time. It was the Monster Mash, so they enjoyed that. We are currently in the middle of our evaluation process, going around to teachers and evaluating them, and it's a busy time of year, but it's also a really good time of the year just to get in the classrooms and be reminded that we got some really great things going on in the classroom. We have some real amazing teachers, so it's pretty exciting to see them at work. Last week we had freshman orientation, and it seems really early to be having freshman orientation, but we are starting scheduling. We started last year earlier, but we're starting this year early as well, just to get through that process and make sure kids know their schedule before the end of the school year. So part of that is meeting with parents and educating them about that next step as their 8th graders become high schoolers. So last week we also had the ASVAB test, and just to make sure everybody understands it, ASVAB is just not taking a test to lock you into the military. Obviously, that is a test that it's a screener for the military, but it doesn't mean a student, just because they take it, is going into the military. It's actually being used by a lot of schools as a path to graduation. It's one of those ways to check off a box with the new graduation requirements. So that's a good opportunity for many of our kids. We had a great Veterans Day program, so I just want to thank our student council, Mr. Young. He's our supervisor for student council. We had a panel of 5 staff members that have served in the military in one way, shape, or form through different branches, and we had students able to ask them questions, and they were able to respond for our students and the audience, and I think they did a really good job. I was really impressed with our students. Just as far as an audience, I thought they were very respectful, and hopefully they took a lot from that program. And we were able to have several veterans in the audience as well to enjoy that program, and we were able to recognize them. So it was a great day. This coming Thursday, Christine kind of mentioned this, but we do have professional development on Thursday, and our plan as a building is we're going to continue our conversations as we create an instructional model. And at some point, I'd like to bring that to the school board and just kind of show you what that model is and why we think that's important to put that together. We will also be taking some time that morning just to allow teachers within their department to collaborate and just have an opportunity to have conversations that are necessary to improve within our department. We do have a bullying presentation coming up this Monday, and I believe that's grades 5 through 12, correct? So that's going to be put on by Tammy Napier, Marshall County prosecutor. So looking forward to that presentation. I'll recognize our CTE students again. You know, Elijah, he's one that'll probably get up and speak anytime he has the opportunity. That's just the kind of guy he is. But Lexi, probably not so much. But she was excited. And when she was asked to do this, there was no hesitation. So I know she's excited about her program, and we're just very proud of her. So she's doing a great job. Let's see here. I guess the last thing, I'd just like to thank our teachers for the amazing job that they're doing. I'd like to thank Jeremy for his leadership, and we feel that support every day within our corporation, and I think we also feel the support of a really healthy board. So thank you, guys.
Just 2 things. I did have these on continuous improvement, but I do want to remind, I know both administrators talked about this, November 17th, we do have a delayed start. I will be advertising that through social media means, but we will have a 2-hour delayed start, which also was part of our strategic plan. And I do want to remind our board, tomorrow night at 5:30, ISBA regional meeting at Christo's, so we can continue to learn and better govern and lead. So that's really a continuous improvement for us as well. So once again, thank you. That's all I have.
If there's no other business, we will move to adjourn at 7:59.